Destination Medicine is a joint project of the regional training hubs. This podcast series brings you medical students' accounts of their experience in applying to study medicine. Welcome to Destination Medicine. I'm Peter Letts. Every now and then you hear a medical origin story that inspires. Andre McDuling's is also hilarious and hopeful. His path to medicine, however, has been far from well paved, and there were many obstacles to overcome before he could realise his dream. Andre has demonstrated extraordinary perseverance and is happy to give advice on what he's learned along the way. But first, Andre McDuling explains to Nicole Goodman how he found medicine on a fateful journey.
Wow, yeah, that was an auspicious day. I was still working in IT at that stage, and this was my first career after finishing school. And on the 5th of September 2005, I had to fly to the city of Port Elizabeth in South Africa to go do tech support. I developed data capturing software, and they told me that the numbers weren't working. I need to come immediately. So I arrived bright and early for a very important day. I thought it was going to be a big challenge to get the numbers to work. And when I arrived there, they showed me what the problem was, and I leaned over and I pressed the numlock key, and suddenly the numbers worked. So yeah, that was the day I decided to think about my life and reevaluate where I was going.
The old turn it off and on solves the problem. Yeah, I suppose if you do that enough times, it can probably do your head in. What was it about a visit to a rural clinic in South Africa that really changed things for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. In that same line of work, I was doing a lot of work for the CSIR in South Africa. It's the Council for Scientific and Information Research. Here in Australia, it's called the CSIRO. And I'd gone there to look at the IT systems as well. But more specifically, I think my father had an ulterior motive. He told me to go check it out because he knew I was interested in healthcare. But I kind of put it off to the side. I didn't think I was ever going to get in. I didn't think it was ever worth it. So he sent me to this HIV/AIDS maternity clinic called Ndlovu, which means the elephant. And there were these two doctors there that was running this place, and they were telling me about what they were doing and how they were doing things. And I was looking at how they had this effect on the town, on the effect on the community, how they were educating people and bringing them a better quality of life, and how they were really working really hard. And you could see the results in the people. Those people loved those people. And they're still going right now. They're doing what they're doing right now. But combined with the IT incident, I realized that this is what I was meant to be doing. This is what I wanted to do. I thought what they were doing was so cool. So I looked at a few university degrees and saw what the options were. And I realized that I could actually get into psychology. At that stage, that was the one degree that I knew I could get into. So I applied for that. I applied for medicine as well, but not expecting to get in. But I got into psychology, and 5 months later, my program started. And yeah, I thought I might have to work my way up through a couple of qualifications to get to the point where I can actually start studying medicine.
You actually have a number of degrees. How many, in fact, do you have?
5.
Wow. Tell us about those.
So you know about the computer science qualification, and then I did psychology as well because I could get in. During my psychology degree, I tried to transfer to health sciences or medicine or anything would be the next step. I was very lazy in high school.
You made up for it later.
I had to make up for it, yes. So I was looking around and I spoke to a few of the medical faculty members in South Africa, and they suggested I look overseas and I expand my borders a little bit. So I sent out a shout out to the University of Queensland, and they happened to have a representative in my city. I spoke to them and I ended up applying for and getting into a Bachelor of Health Sciences, so Population Health at the University of Queensland. So that was why my family moved to Australia in the end. I came here to do that. Before I could start that, I actually had to do a bridging course, which was basically me redoing year 12. Then I did my health sciences degree, finished that, realized I didn't really want to work in administration and public health. Phenomenal, amazing, and very important qualification, but I love clinical work. So on the side, I did a diploma or a qualification in pathology, so I could collect blood, which basically allowed me to pay my way through university. And finished that. I was on the verge of starting a Master's of Public Health, but I figured it's a good idea to take a year off just to do a bit of work and just to sit the GAMSAT, do really well with that and try and get in. So I set the GAMSAT, didn't get into medicine, But I had been thinking about my next step, and I had thought that nuclear medicine sounded pretty cool. I didn't really know what it was at that stage, but I thought it sounded cool. So I got into that at the University of Newcastle, and I'm actually a practicing nuclear medicine scientist at the moment.
That is amazing. With all of that, did you ever consider any other health professions, and why was becoming a doctor the one that won out in the end?
I really did consider other health professions. I, for a while, was researching becoming a paramedic or a nurse. Honestly, through doing the degrees that I did and working in pathology, I was exposed to a lot of other healthcare professionals. If there's one field that would have made me happy, probably would have been nuclear medicine. We get to do some really cool things. You get to have an impact. You get to see patients. You get to do cool science. You get to play with the radiation. I mean, if you tell someone you're a nuclear medicine scientist, often their response is, wow, what's that? So if you want that element in your life, then that's great. And it's important work. In my practice, though, I found that I wanted more. I didn't just want to find the problems. I wanted to be involved with solving the problem, walking through that path with the patient. Because a lot of my patients I would see every couple of months, especially when you're working in PET, so positron emission, that's more cancer imaging. They would come every couple of months and you'd see them and you'd walk them, and one day they would stop coming, either because they went into remission or because they went the other way. So the analogy that I use is it's like skipping a stone across a deep lake. You get a little bit of it, just enough to keep you interested, but the really good stuff, the deep stuff, that's what I wanted. So that's why I pursued medicine.
When you decided to apply, what were your first steps? Did you have a map to kind of plan things out as well?
Well, yes, I would definitely say I did. Unfortunately, my map was developed through almost brute force methodology because I was really trying for 18 years to get into medicine. I mean, there's that stage where you're kind of broken and disappointed and thinking you should maybe do something else with your life. So the first decision, of course, would always be, am I applying for medicine for next year? And most often I would say, yes, I am intending on applying. So, I mean, you start preparing for the GAMSAT again, and it's an awful test in many ways. But I sat it 8 times.
8 times?
8 times. I started off having just passed by the conventional 50-50-50 that they need you to get. And every time I sat the exam, I did better and better. A little bit better here. Then I broke through the 60s, and it stuck there once or twice. And I knew I needed to do something to jump just across that little margin, because there's this band. If you're below that band, you're just never going to get in anywhere. So yeah, finally in the last go, luckily I got there. So
what was it that you did that was different, do you think, in the last round?
I started having fun, honestly. It's a long exam. It's a difficult exam. It's not a nice thing to go through. You spend months learning. You have to learn everything. There's no real limit on what you have to learn, especially with, let's say, the essay. I know a lot of people struggle with writing a quick, nice, cohesive essay or two in an hour. Some of the courses that I'd done, and I'd done many, they had very interesting tips on how to write the essay. And I had the most fun I'd ever had with an essay during that one. So yes, I can enjoy it and you can study and there's all these amazing things that you learn. But there is an element of luck in it, because that year in the physics section, there were a lot of nuclear medicine questions. So when I started the questions and reading through them, and I realized it was about radioactive decay, or about, I'd at that stage done a little bit of extra education in ultrasound, and there were questions on ultrasound physics. And I just looked up at the ceiling and I thought, finally, I know this. So a combination of changing your preparation, doing a lot of practice exams, that's something that changed over the 8 times. Beginning, I wasn't sitting any. By the end, I was sitting a lot. And having a bit more fun, and then a modicum of luck.
The drive and commitment and dedication to sitting just one GAMSAT is admirable. To do 8 is astounding. Well done.
It's important to note that a lot of people don't get in first go.
Absolutely.
I've got colleagues studying with me right now that sat it 3 or 4 times, and a few of them sat it once and they got in immediately, and I'm very happy for them. But some of us need to
a few more times. Yeah. How many universities did you apply to in the end?
I applied at every single one that I could.
Yes.
I applied at all the postgraduate universities that I could. So I went through the GEMSAS application, the Graduate Entry Medical School Admission Scheme. You can apply for 6 there. So I basically applied up and down the East Coast. So Queensland University, Griffith, Notre Dame, Wollongong, ANU, University of Melbourne. I think I threw in Notre Dame in West Australia as well. But then on the non-standard entry, I also applied at Flinders University. I applied at University of Sydney and, Deakin as well. I threw Deakin in there too. And then on a great day in September, I got an interview offer and I sat the interview. And then after that, I got an actual offer of a spot at the University of Sydney, which when I looked at the University of Sydney's website and I saw they are now offering the full 4-year program in Dubbo as the School of Rural Health with a smaller cohort, I thought it's incredible. So I went online and I downloaded their brochure. And as I read through everything that the school stood for and why it was created, and even the timeline of when it was created, I thought to myself, this is exactly where I want to be. It's like this school was created for someone like me. I'd applied that 10 years before, but I never thought I'd actually be able to get in. So I kind of relegated it to the in my wildest dreams category. So when I got that offer, I was at work and I'd promised my wife that I won't tell anyone. So I had to wait for half an hour so I could actually tell her before I could speak to anyone else about it. And then I could do my little happy dance. I was living in Geelong in Victoria at that stage. And then I got in and then we decided, yes, we're accepting it. So we moved to Dubbo.
What attracted you to the regions?
Well, it goes back to my initial motivation to study medicine, that small clinic that I saw and the impact the doctors had. And over the last 15 years, I've worked in rural and in metropolitan areas. I've always had a passion for working in rural medicine. I think there's the greatest need for it there. You also get to do a lot of really cool things. You're meeting your patients and they really need you to be there. They often drive 5 or 6 hours just to see you. So they're grateful that you're there. They're more likely to have done the work needed to actually have a good therapeutic outcome. There's the lifestyle. I mean, you get to experience a much higher quality of life, according to me, but that's something that I love. I think there's some people that will always be city people, and it's great for them. And the cities need doctors too. But the need out here is just incredible. Plus, my wife and I had the dream of actually starting a rural healthcare center. That's when we started dating. We were talking about where we'd like to go eventually. She's an osteopath and she, at that stage, had just accepted a position in rural Victoria. And she loves it out here now as well. So the moment I read about the School of Rural Health, and I told my wife, this is one place where we can actually make it work. This program is almost perfectly created for someone like me, and everyone else in this program is the same as I am. We have the same drive and the same desire to work in rural healthcare.
Who did you tell about your goal to become a doctor, and what was their reaction?
Just after the IT incident, as I shall call it now, the first person I told was my dad. He'd never really given up on me. I think he was a bit disappointed that I went into IT initially, but when I told him I wanted to pursue medicine, he just said, finally. And yeah, he was immensely supportive. And I mean, my other family members, they were there as well. A few of them, after a couple of tries, started saying, maybe you should find something else to do with your life. But yeah, my wife is the other person. I think when I met her shortly after coming to Australia, I told her I was on the pathway to studying medicine, and she never gave up on me. She was always there and always supporting.
So good. That's wonderful. What do you remember about the interview component, and how did you prepare for it?
I had to sit the group interview with University of Sydney for their Dubbo cohort. They've only interviewed their School of Rural Health students. And also with Wollongong University, I sat an MMI, the multiple mini interview. So the group one with Sydney for Dubbo was absolutely phenomenal. It was so much fun. How I prepared for it is I basically went online onto all the forums and social media and Reddit, and I found other people that had gotten interview offers. And then in the conversations that we had, we met up with a second year student who was kind of helping us all find each other as well. And we started a chat group. So we all started talking to each other and we started discussing things and about sharing our dreams and our stories and how long we've been trying and all those kinds of things. So I basically got to know the kind of people I'd be studying with. And then on the day, the interview, it was a group interview. So there were, I think, 10 or 12 of us in one chat room. And they asked us each about 3 or 4 questions, which I had no idea what they were going to ask. It wasn't the same normal interview structure that I'd gotten used to, the MMIs. But it was basically tell us about who you are. What are your motivations? How will you find yourself being suitable to rural life care or healthcare, or why you're studying medicine? So it was basically just a get to know you kind of situation. Because I'd gotten to know everyone beforehand, I was very relaxed on the day. I had a lot of fun. I was free to be myself. Even though it was a very high stakes situation, I think the fact that I had an interview offer at another university as well took the pressure off me. If that was the only interview that I was going to have, I would probably have been a lot more nervous. But once again, there's that luck element coming in.
There's a lot of different study techniques and people study in a multitude of different ways. Have you found one that works for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thankfully, through my many degrees that I've done, I've had to have some practice. In my early degrees, I was always trying to memorize everything. I was basically rote learning everything. And as time went by, I stopped studying to memorize. I just sat an exam this morning, actually, and I now study to understand things. So I read through my material, but I am a little bit more free form with my way of researching topics. I want to understand the basics and the root causes of why things are the way they are. So if you memorize things, you can just spit out the answer. But if you understand how it works, you can dissect an answer. You can view it from a different angle and you can apply it better. And it'll make you a better doctor at the end of the day.
What tips do you have for people that are looking to apply and go through the selection process?
First things first. Know what you want. Know if medicine's what you want. Yeah, there are success stories where people would literally apply first time, get in, no problem, go be a doctor. But if you know who you are and know why you want to study medicine, know what you're pursuing at the end of the day, and if you know you want it for the right reasons, then it makes it a lot easier if things don't go as quickly or as immediately as you would have liked to. And yeah, the other tip would be it's worth it. Don't give up.
There's also a lot of people in medicine that experience imposter syndrome. Everyone's so incredibly smart and has done a lot to achieve that level of success of just getting in. Have you had to deal with imposter syndrome? And if you have, how have you managed that?
Oh, yeah, big time. I think every single medical student I'm studying with at the moment has imposter syndrome. I sometimes wake up in the middle of the night thinking I'm going to get a phone call and they're going to say, oh, we made a mistake. We found you out. You're not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
Most of the people going into medicine are relatively high performing and they're very tough on themselves. But you got to remember how hard you work to get there. And I'm grateful that my wife also often reminds me of how hard I worked and how long I worked to get there. I am also working in a cohort of people that are all in the same situation, and everyone is brilliant, and they all deserve to be there, and they tell me I deserve to be there as well. And sometimes you've just got to let yourself remember that, and next time you get that little bit of imposter syndrome, you just kind of nod to yourself and say, yep, I'm here because I'm supposed to be here.
Yep. Finally, Andre, is there something about medicine that you feel like you just could never have prepared for?
Yeah. No, I think there's a few things that you'll only learn when you're in the situation. For myself, I'll borrow from nuclear medicine and that. There's sometimes where you're talking to a patient and you're having a discussion, an exam or an interview, and you're realizing that there's not going to be a good prognosis here. And you're still talking to them, you're still being encouraging. And it's basically knowing how to communicate to them in a way that is still empathic and that's still caring and that's still supportive and still being a good doctor. But sometimes you can't say anything because you're still waiting for the results. Even if you know what the outcome might be, you have to wait for the results. You have to wait for the evidence. And even then, when you've got the evidence, you've got to sit there and look them in the eye and tell them what's going on. I don't think that's something that you can really prepare for unless you've been through it yourself.
Andre McDuling, a University of Sydney Medical School student studying in Dubbo. This is Destination Medicine. Thanks for listening. Regional training hubs are supported by funding from the Australian Government under the Rural Health Multidisciplinary Training Program.